Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric. I got a fun and unexpected episode for you guys this Wednesday because we are interrupting the Sega Arcade Racing Renaissance series to talk about the fact that Rent-A-Hero #1 is now in English on Dreamcast. Because for the longest time this game was not available in any English language whatsoever, it was a Japanese exclusive, but due to the work from some intrepid modders we can now play Rent-A-Hero #1 on our Dreamcast. And when I say this game is weird, absurd, and strange in all the best ways possible, I mean it. This is quintessential and classic weird Dreamcast era Sega. But before we get too far involved, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe. That notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you want to be my Rent-A-Hero, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, we get a ring at the doorbell because we have ordered some food, and we get a gigantic comically sized box with a suit inside of it, and this is your hero suit. This is basically the inciting incident that kicks off the entire episode of Rent-A-Hero, and trust me, it just gets weirder from here. We are a new family that just moved into Hangover Park, and our father's putting on a show for everybody in the neighborhood in a giant monster dinosaur costume. That's what happens. It's not made up. The English translation doesn't change the intent of the game. This is just what happens, and Dad is so proud of his son for getting in on the act and dressing up as a hero. But there's something that the son doesn't realize yet about this Rent-A-Hero costume. It is not just going out for Halloween. Oh no. We're going to get into a fight with our father like most boys do at some point in time, and we just knocked the dinosaur clean out of him onto the ground, and he is knocked out completely as all the new neighbors stand around and look. They must be thinking, who the hell is this family that just moved into the neighborhood? And the daughter is worried about her daddy. Obviously, the Rent-A-Hero suit gives you some powers that you don't normally have, and you see those at the bottom of the screen. You got your hit points and some other stats, but we are not just a costumed hero, we are actually a new hero right now, and we have just knocked out our father. I don't understand why the game opens like this whatsoever, but don't forget, this was Sega in the Dreamcast area, and they were weird, and the designers gave that dude one gigantic metal cod piece. All jokes aside, because there are plenty of jokes to make about this game, this is of its time and place, and there's so many Sega nods to it. He has a t-shirt on that's got the 32X as well as the Mega Drive logo here. And this business owner that delivered those pizzas also is running a side business where he's trying to do Rent-A-Hero. And you're going to see here, he gives us the Creamcast. Yes, that's right, the Creamcast. One letter worse than Dreamcast. And that is how we're going to be communicating with our missions throughout the game. Because he's going to hand it to us, we need to carefully bring it up to our room and do the worst thing possible. Don't put your retro consoles on the carpet, they do not ventilate well. But I think it's weird he puts it right on the carpet and then it shows up on the glass table next to it. And apparently this is a wireless Creamcast because it has no electricity or a controller whatsoever. And as we get into the Creamcast OS, technically more advanced than the Dreamcast OS I believe, we're going to go over to work and get our missions. And because this has been translated into English, now everything does make sense. And outside of the weird jokes about what Rent-A-Hero #1 really is, and the amount of work that went into translating this game into English is nothing short of incredible. And I will credit all of the translators down in the description below, so I don't have to give you a 2-minute list of them. But a lot of people's hands were in this project, and they have all done an absolutely spectacular job. As we get out into the main city, it's definitely going to have some Shenmue vibes. This is actually using the engine from Spikeout on Model 3 and on Naomi as well, and I'll get into a little bit of that comparison in a bit. But as we meet up with the old man here, he's going to give us our first assignment, and that is drumming up business for the Rent-A-Hero Corporation. We just gotta run around town in our costume handing out flyers, and the citizenry acts exactly as you would expect if somebody on the street walked up to you and tried to hand you a flyer. But the great part about the translation is all of the humor is intact. It is very absurd humor, and it's not going to make a ton of sense, but that's what the game was going for, and they've really relayed that in English, because translating from Japanese to English I'm sure is quite hard, not just in the literal sense, but bringing over the tone of the humor in and of itself. We give this kid a flyer here, and he says, "Man, look at yourself, I feel sorry for you." And I feel sorry for him too, but what I don't feel sorry for is the soundtrack, because it is catchy and it is amazing. Listen for 45 seconds and I'll be right back. It's definitely catchy, it's definitely weird, and you're definitely going to be humming it later today, but we're into our first battle here, and we have found this punk harassing a woman in the courtyard. And of course, as a Rena hero, what are we going to do? We definitely have to defend her, but don't forget, he is a Rena hero, and that's going to come in very important shortly. But I love that, of course, the punk has the mohawk, the leather jacket, and all the chains. It is quite literal, and a lot of this game is literal. It's interpretation of how the United States works and what it seems like, and of course, he even has a knife in his back pocket ready to stick us. And once you get into the combat here, if you've never played Spikeout or Spiker's Battle, maybe it won't be familiar, but this game is using the engine from that game, which was just a 3D beat 'em up. And I will say it doesn't seem like it translated as well to the Dreamcast as it did on Model 3 or Naomi, because the combat can feel a little bit stilted, but honestly, you're not playing Rena Hero number 1 for the combat, you're playing it for stories like this. He's gonna stop pimping women around this town. He was trying to just get a date, but now apparently he's pimping people, and this is going to come in very important in just a moment. But moving over to Spiker's Battle, you can definitely see the cadence of the motion and the battling system itself being extremely similar. Now it's much more fluid in Spiker's Battle, and that ran on Naomi, but that's basically what Rena Hero is running on. It seems like this is the entire engine transposed into an action RPG with a lot of humorous elements. But getting back to Rena Hero, the reason we're talking about this, she is so happy that we have saved her. She's going to ask us what our name is, what our hero name is, and I couldn't think of anything better than Dougie. He just seems like a Dougie to me. Maybe he's a Dougie Jones if you get that reference. But we are a Rena hero. She is very happy with us, and now, based upon the work we have done for her, she's going to pay us for it. Again, not quite a payoff yet. It's going to come in just a moment. But again, it's just such a weird game. You've gotten 2,000 gold to save a woman in a hero costume, and it wouldn't be a Sega game without a reference to Segata Sanshiro here. He is running a dojo in town, and he accepts one of our flyers, and he's going to be training us throughout some portion of the game. This is just filled with Sega callbacks. There's so many different nods to classic Sega in here up through the Dreamcast era. You're going to have to pay attention to each and every one of them. But what other game do you get to fight Segata Sanshiro in? It's worth it for the price of admission alone to check this out, and before this translation came out, you never understood what anybody was saying, and all of the voice lines, all of the dialogue, they are what really give you the story, give you the humor, and just give you the sheer ridiculousness behind this game. If Shenmue was trying to play it straight all the time, then Rena Hero is constantly trying to be weird, and I think weird is a better version for Sega than playing it straight ever was. But you'll see here we now got a new combo. That's going to be important because the battles are going to get better and longer as the game goes on. And I'm just showing you guys the introductory sequence to this game because I really want you to play it. If you've never heard of this before, just take my word for it, check it out. I'm not saying it's a perfect game, I'm saying it's an experience you're not going to forget. And just like the tomato market in Shenmue, we have a market here where we're going to buy a lot of our different power-ups to keep ourselves going. But it definitely looks like the Tomato Mart. It's definitely got that Dreamcast vibe that we all know and love so much. And that's the great thing about this translation. This is the universe I want to live in as a Sega fan, but until we had it in English, it was impossible to understand what was going on. Sure, there was some written FAQs, but you lost all the humor and the charm trying to play the game while reading out of the corner of your eye. And that's why I love translation efforts like this so much. Fans wanted to experience a new game and wanted other people to see it too, so they went to all the effort to make it playable for us. It's basically a brand new Dreamcast game. It just came about 2 decades late. But now that we have done our first assignment, we have to run through town in our superhero costume, past 3 billboards for Sanyo batteries. Do not know what they had to pay for the promotional spot here, but in a game so weird, a battery ad kind of seems a little bit too normal. As we pop over to the Creamcast, and it is the color of cream, so that does make sense. I think that's soft serve ice cream there. We are going to get our second mission, and that is going to be going to another person's house in the neighborhood to take a request from them. And that's when some of the other weirdness in this game comes in, because we can just leave our house, pop across the street, and wander into any open house in the neighborhood. No one bats an eyelash that we are coming in. And we just pop into a kid's room to get the assignment. It doesn't make any sense, but it is absolutely hilarious. He has a letter he wants us to deliver, and it is going to be a love letter. This is our assignment as a Rena hero, and not all of the assignments are going to be hero-based. Sometimes you're just going to have to do errands for your neighbors. So it seems like the life of Rena hero is not always glamorous, but you do get to go to your neighbors' houses, and they don't think it's weird at all that a man in a metal codpiece is walking through their front door. It's almost like they're expecting you. And here's what's going on. We beat up a pimp in the old man's neighborhood for pimping. The old man now sells our services out. I don't think we're a rent-a-hero, I think we're a rent-a-gigolo, and she just paid for an hour of what's behind that big metal cod piece. That is the story of Rent-a-Hero. And that's the payoff to the joke I've been stringing along this whole video. But all jokes aside, you can play this in English now. I'll leave a link down in the description below, and I think you should. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.